Hi guys, this is Silas, and welcome back to Somnus, the show that tries to walk you through a day in a life from a different time, a different place. We focus on the small things, the feelings, the sounds, the smells, what it really felt like to exist in a body in another era. Tonight, we are going to a place of legend, a place synonymous with vice, danger, and the ragged edge of the American frontier, even long after the frontier was officially closed. We are going to the city of San Francisco, California, in the year 1890. But we are not going to the grand mansions of Nob Hill or the bustling commerce of Market Street. We are going to the heart of its darkness, the square mile of depravity known as the Barbary Coast. This is the world of sailors and crimps, of dance halls and deadfalls, of opium dens and brutal poverty, all crowded together on the waterfront under a perpetual blanket of fog and coal smoke. The goal tonight is not to tell a story of adventure, but one of survival. To feel the grit, the exhaustion, and the simple, profound act of enduring one more day. So if you are ready, find a comfortable position. Let the sound of my voice be your guide. And if you enjoy what we do here, a like or a subscribe is always deeply appreciated. Let me know in the comments where you are listening from tonight. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. The first thing you feel is the damp. It is not a wetness you can wipe away. It is a cold that has seeped into the very marrow of your bones, into the thin wool of the blanket, into the packed straw of the mattress beneath you. It is the permanent chill of a city built on a peninsula of sand, surrounded on three sides by frigid water and perpetually shrouded in a thick, salty fog. This is the San Francisco cold, a living thing that finds its way through the cracks in the walls, under the door, and through the single pane of grimy glass that serves as a window. It is the first and last sensation of every day. Then come the smells. A symphony of decay, a complex chord of human misery. The primary note is unwashed bodies. The sour, sharp tang of stale sweat from the three other men sleeping in this tiny, windowless room. Underneath, that is the smell of damp wool, of mildew growing in the corners where the fog condenses and drips down the walls. There is the faint, sweetish odor of rot from the floorboards, where countless spills of beer and food and things you do not want to name have soaked into the wood. And beneath it all, the ghost of cheap tobacco and the lingering, cloying perfume of the opium smoke that drifts up from the floor below. You breathe it in, this air that is more substance than void. It is the atmosphere of your world. The sounds begin to filter through your exhausted consciousness. A deep, wet cough from the bunk across from yours, a hacking, rattling sound that seems to tear something loose in the man's chest. A floorboard creaks in the hall. From the street, 2 stories below, comes the distant rumble of a dray wagon's iron-shod wheels on the cobblestones, the sound muffled by the fog. A ship's horn bellows from the bay, a low, mournful sound that speaks of vast, cold distances. These are the sounds of the city waking, a great, groaning beast stirring from a shallow, restless sleep. You have only been here for 6 months, but these sounds are already more familiar to you than the bird song of the farm you left behind. Your name is Thomas, or perhaps it is James or William. It does not really matter. Your name is a relic of a former life, a life where you were a son, a brother, a neighbor. Here, you are just a body that occupies a space, a pair of hands that does a job. You are 19 years old, though the fatigue in your bones makes you feel much older. You came here from the flat, predictable fields of Ohio with a head full of stories about gold and opportunity, about a city of wonders by the Western Sea. The stories did not mention this room. They did not mention the damp, or the smell, or the aching weariness that settles in your soul like silt at the bottom of a river. You keep your eyes closed for a moment longer, clinging to the last vestiges of sleep. In that gray space between dreaming and waking, you can almost remember the feel of a clean, dry bed, the smell of your mother's kitchen, of baking bread and fresh-cut hay, the warmth of the sun on your face. But the memories are thin, like ghosts, and the cold reality of the room quickly dissolves them. The coughing from the other bunk ends in a painful-sounding spit. The day is here. It cannot be ignored. The physical act of rising is the first true labor of the day. You swing your legs over the side of the narrow bunk, and your bare feet touch the cold, gritty floor. A network of aches and pains immediately makes itself known. Your lower back screams in protest from the lumpy mattress. Your shoulders are stiff, your knees throb with a dull, persistent ache. Every muscle complains. Your body is a machine that has been run too hard and maintained too poorly. And this is the daily report of its slow, grinding breakdown. You sit on the edge of the bunk, your head in your hands. The room is still dark, but a faint, pearlescent gray light is beginning to filter through the grimy window. It illuminates a small, cramped space. Two sets of rickety wooden bunks are pushed against opposite walls. A single wooden crate serves as a table. Clothes, stiff with dirt and sweat, are hung on nails hammered into the walls. The air is thick enough to see, swirling with dust motes and the vapor of your own breath. This is home. This is the space you pay 25 cents a day for, a quarter of your entire daily wage. You pull on your trousers, the rough denim stiff and cold against your skin. You do not bother with washing. The only water available is from a communal pump in the courtyard 3 flights down, and it is frigid. Besides, cleanliness is a luxury you cannot afford in time or energy. It is a concept that belongs to another world, the world of the clean people you sometimes see on the grander streets, the ones who smell of soap and starch and look at you as if you are a piece of filth they have unfortunately stepped in. Your roommate in the bunk below, a man named Finn, stirs and groans. He is a sailor, currently without a ship, spending his days in the waterfront saloons, waiting for a berth or for his money to run out, whichever comes first. He does not speak much, and you are grateful for that. Words require energy. Shared silence is the common language of this place. The other 2 men, you do not even know their names. They are just shapes in the darkness, sources of snores and coughs. In a place this crowded, anonymity is a small, precious form of privacy. You pull on your shirt, then your heavy, worn coat. The coat is your most valuable possession. It is your shield against the wind and the rain, your extra blanket at night. It smells of salt and coal smoke and the 1,000 other scents of the city that have worked their way into its fibers. You put on your boots, the leather cracked and stiff. Lacing them up is a slow, deliberate process, your fingers clumsy with cold. Each movement is an effort, a conscious act of will against the body's desire to simply lie back down and surrender. Finally, you are dressed. You stand up, your head nearly brushing the low ceiling. You navigate the narrow space between the bunks and open the door. The air in the hallway is even colder and smells worse, a potent mix of stale beer, boiled cabbage, and overflowing privies. The building is a tenement, a warren of small, dark rooms stacked one on top of the other, filled with men like you. Men who came to San Francisco seeking a fortune and found only a cot in a flophouse and a day of back-breaking labor. You make your way down the narrow, rickety stairs. The wood groans and creaks under your weight. The walls are slick with condensation. You pass other doors, behind which you hear the sounds of other lives, other struggles. A baby crying. A man and a woman arguing in a language you do not understand. The sharp, hacking cough that seems to be the building's unofficial anthem. It is a vertical neighborhood of desperation, a human hive humming with a low, constant thrum of misery. The ground floor is a saloon. It is dark and quiet now, smelling of sour, spilled beer and sawdust. The owner lets the rooms upstairs to men who are likely to spend what little money they have in his establishment. It is a closed system, a perfect little economy of despair. You push open the heavy front door and step out onto the street. The street. Pacific Street. The heart of the Barbary coast. The air hits you like a physical blow. It is thick with fog, coal smoke, and the smell of the low tide from the nearby waterfront. The smell of the bay at low tide is a universe unto itself. The sharp, iodine scent of seaweed, the deep, rich funk of decaying marine life, the raw, sewage-tinged smell of the mudflats. Mixed with that is the pungent, earthy smell of horse manure from the countless horses that pull the city's wagons, and the sharp, chemical tang of coal smoke that billows from 1,000 chimneys. This is the air you breathe. You have learned to filter it, to take shallow breaths, to ignore the constant assault on your senses. The street is just beginning to stir. A few shadowy figures move through the gloom. A milk cart rattles by, the glass bottles clinking. From a nearby bakery, the smell of bread is a small, unexpected pocket of warmth and comfort in the cold, foul air. You turn your collar up against the damp and begin to walk. Your destination is a small coffee stand a few blocks away, where you will spend one of your precious dimes on the day's first and most essential purchase. Walking is a mechanical act. Your body knows the way. Your feet navigate the uneven cobblestones, the broken planks of the sidewalk. The Barbary coast in the early morning is a landscape of ghosts. The garish signs of the dance halls and deadfalls are dark and lifeless. The doorways are filled with sleeping figures, huddled in rags for warmth. The street is littered with the debris of the previous night. Broken bottles, discarded food, a single, sad-looking woman's shoe. It is a city of ruins, rebuilt and re-ruined every single day. You pass a man leaning against a wall, his body shaking with the tremors of delirium. His eyes are open, but see nothing. You do not look at him. You learn quickly here to keep your eyes down, to not make contact, to not invite trouble. Everyone here is fighting their own desperate battle for survival. There is no energy left for sympathy. A mainstream historical fact that often surprises people is the sheer density of the population in places like the Barbary Coast. In the late 19th century, San Francisco was one of the most crowded cities in America. Tenements like the one you live in would often house dozens, sometimes hundreds, of people in conditions that defied all notions of sanitation and personal space. A single room, not much larger than a modern walk-in closet, would frequently be home to an entire family or, as in your case, be subdivided with crude bunks to house 4 or 5 single men. These buildings were often cheaply constructed fire traps, with inadequate ventilation and non-existent plumbing. The mortality rate, especially for children, from diseases like tuberculosis, cholera, and diphtheria was staggering. The city was a machine that consumed people, particularly the poor and the immigrant, at an alarming rate. You reach the coffee stand. It is little more than a cart with a large, steaming urn and a stack of tin cups. The man who runs it is old and weathered, his face a mask of weary resignation. He nods at you, and you nod back. Coffee, you say? It is the only word you will speak this morning. He takes your dime and hands you a steaming tin cup. The metal is hot, and you wrap your cold fingers around it, savoring the warmth. The coffee is bitter and weak, mostly chicory, but it is hot and wet. You lean against a wall and drink it slowly, letting the heat seep into your hands, into your belly. It is a small ritual, a moment of quiet punctuation before the long, noisy sentence of the day begins. It is the one small thing you do for yourself, the one moment that is not about labor or survival, but about simple, creature comfort. As you drink, you eat your breakfast. It is a piece of dry bread you bought yesterday. You chew it slowly, methodically. It is tasteless, a dry, crumbly fuel for the body's engine. You watch the street come to life. More wagons are appearing now. The clip-clop of horses' hooves is a steady rhythm. Men are heading to the docks, their lunch pails swinging. The city is a great, complex machine, and you are one of its smallest, most interchangeable cogs. A group of sailors stumbles out of a saloon, loud and drunk even at this early hour. They are young, their faces flushed with cheap whiskey. They will have a few days of this, spending their wages from a long voyage, and then they will be broke again, looking for another ship, another master. Or perhaps they will wake up on a ship they did not choose, their pockets empty and their heads aching, victims of a crimp and a drugged drink. The Barbary Coast is full of such stories. You have learned to be wary, to nurse your one beer at the end of the day, to always be aware of your surroundings. A quirky detail about the crimping system, or Shanghaiing, is how brazenly it operated. It was practically an official industry on the Barbary Coast. Men known as crimps would work with boarding house masters and saloon owners to procure sailors for ships that were short on crew. Their methods were notoriously direct. They would get a sailor drunk, drug his drink with laudanum or opium, and once he was unconscious, he would be robbed and delivered via a boat, often through a trapdoor in the back of a saloon, to a waiting ship. He would wake up hours later, far out at sea, with no memory of how he got there, effectively enslaved for the duration of the voyage. Some of the most notorious saloons had reputations built entirely on the efficiency of their Shanghaiing operations. It was a constant, palpable danger for any man, sailor or not, who was alone and unwary in the district. You finish your coffee and drop the empty cup on the cart. The day's work awaits. You are a swamper in a place called the Blue Parrot, a large, noisy dance hall and saloon on the corner of Pacific and Kearney. Your job is to clean. To clean up the filth and debris of the night before, and to keep cleaning as new filth and debris is generated throughout the day. It is a job that is never finished. The walk to the Blue Parrot takes you deeper into the heart of the district. The streets are narrower here, the buildings taller and closer together, casting the street in a permanent twilight. The air is thick with the smell of stale beer, cheap perfume, and desperation. Even at this hour, music drifts from some of the saloons that never close. A tinny, out-of-tune piano playing a cheerful song that sounds obscene in the gray, morning light. You arrive at the Blue Parrot. It is a large, two-story building with a garish, faded painting of a blue parrot on the sign above the door. The windows are dark. You go around to the back, to a small door in the alley. The alley is a narrow, stinking canyon filled with overflowing barrels of trash, crates, and puddles of stagnant, greasy water. This is your entrance. You knock, and after a moment, the door is unbolted from the inside. A large man named Mac stands there. He is the barkeep, a former prizefighter with a flattened nose and hands like shovels. He grunts a greeting and lets you in. The inside of the saloon is a cave of shadows. The air is thick with the ghosts of last night's revelry, stale tobacco smoke, spilled liquor, sweat, and cheap perfume. The floor is a sticky, gritty mess of sawdust, discarded cigarette butts, and God knows what else. Dozens of chairs are overturned. Glasses and bottles litter the tables and the bar. It looks like a battlefield after a brutal defeat, and in a way it is. Your work begins. First, you light a few of the gas lamps, which hiss to life, casting a weak, yellow glow over the scene of devastation. Your tools are simple: a broom, a shovel, a bucket, and a mop. You start by righting the chairs and tables, your muscles already complaining. You move through the room with a practiced economy of motion. There is no thought involved, only the repetition of a familiar task. Then you begin to sweep. The floor is vast. You start at one end and work your way to the other. The broom raises a cloud of dust that catches in the lamplight. The dust is not just dirt. It is a fine powder of dried spit, spilled beer, and human skin. You breathe it in. It coats the back of your throat. You sweep the mess into small piles, then use the shovel to scoop it into a large canvas bag. As you work, Mac is behind the bar, cleaning glasses, restocking bottles. He works with a silent, methodical efficiency. He has been doing this for 20 years. He is a part of the building, as much a fixture as the bar itself. He rarely speaks, but his presence is a constant, watchful weight in the room. He is your boss, your overseer, the man who hands you your dollar at the end of a long day. You find things as you sweep. A woman's glove, a handful of playing cards, a single, small coin, which you quickly and discreetly pocket. It is a lucky day. The coin is a nickel, a fifth of a cup of coffee, a tenth of a loaf of bread. You feel a small, secret thrill of victory. In this life, you take your triumphs where you can find them. The sweeping takes over an hour. Your back is a solid sheet of pain. Your hands are raw from the rough wood of the broom handle. When you are done, the floor is still dirty, but it is a more uniform, less chaotic kind of dirty. You have imposed a temporary, fragile order on the chaos. Next comes the mopping. You fill a large bucket with murky water from a tap behind the bar. You add a harsh, lye-based soap that stings your nostrils. Then you begin the slow, arduous process of mopping the entire floor. The mop is heavy, the water is cold. You push and pull, push and pull. The slap of the wet mop on the wood floor is a steady, hypnotic rhythm. Slap, swish, drag. Slap, swish, drag. Your mind goes blank as you work. This is a blessing. Thinking is dangerous. Thinking leads to remembering the farm, to dreaming of a different life, and that leads to despair. It is better to be a machine, a simple organism responding to the demands of the task. Your world shrinks to the space of the floor in front of you, to the movement of your arms, to the dull ache in your back. The water in the bucket quickly turns black. You have to empty it in the alley and refill it 4, 5, 6 times. Each trip is a small journey, from the dark interior of the saloon to the gray light of the alley and back again. The work is endless, a series of repetitive, meaningless tasks. You are Sisyphus with a mop. While you are mopping the main floor, 2 women come down the stairs from the rooms above. They are the dance hall girls, the hostesses who will work tonight, persuading lonely sailors and miners to buy overpriced drinks. In the harsh morning light, they look tired and worn. Their faces, stripped of the previous night's paint, are pale and lined with fatigue. They wear simple, drab dresses. They do not look at you as they pass. You are invisible to them, a part of the scenery, like a chair or a table. You keep your head down and continue to mop. You are all cogs in the same machine, just in different sections. An interesting social detail of the Barbary Coast dance halls was the role of the hostess, or waiter girl. These women were the primary attraction. Their job was to engage male patrons in conversation, dance with them, and encourage them to buy drinks. The women often worked on a commission system, earning a percentage of the price of every drink a customer bought for them. The drinks served to the women were often just colored water or weak tea, while the man was served potent, low-quality liquor. It was a carefully managed con, designed to separate a man from his money as quickly as possible. While some of these women were prostitutes, many were not. Their work existed in a gray area of social and sexual commerce, a desperate and often dangerous way for a woman to earn a living in a city with few options for her. Finally, the floor is done. It is still damp and streaked, but the worst of the filth is gone. The air smells of lye soap and wet wood, a temporary improvement over the usual stench. Your next task is the spittoons. This is the worst part of the job. There are dozens of them, large brass bowls scattered throughout the room. They are filled with a foul slurry of tobacco spit, cigarette butts, and phlegm. You carry them, one by one, to the back room. The smell is stomach-turning. You have to hold your breath as you work. You empty them into a large barrel that will be hauled away later. Then you have to wash them. You use a stiff brush and the same harsh soap, scrubbing away the grime until the brass gleams faintly in the dim light. Your hands are submerged in the cold, filthy water. You try not to think about what you are touching. You focus on the motion, the circular scrubbing, the rinsing. You become a machine again. The spittoons are clean. You return them to their places on the floor. The saloon is starting to look almost respectable. Mac has finished with the bar, and it is now clean and polished, the bottles arranged in neat rows. The morning's work is almost done. It is nearly noon. Mac nods towards the back door. "Break," he says. It is the first word he has spoken to you all day. You nod and head to the small, windowless storage room where you keep your things. You have a small parcel wrapped in newspaper. Inside is another piece of bread and a slice of salty, cured meat. This is your lunch. You take your food out into the alley. The fog has burned off a little, and a weak, watery sunlight filters down between the buildings. The air is still cold. You find a relatively clean crate to sit on, your back against the brick wall. The alley is your dining room. It smells of garbage and urine, but it is better than the stale air of the saloon. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. The bread is stale, the meat is tough, but it is food. It is fuel. As you eat, you watch the life of the alley. A stray cat, thin and wary, darts from behind a pile of crates. A couple of Chinese men from the laundry next door come out to smoke their long-stemmed pipes. Their conversation a series of quiet, musical syllables. They ignore you, and you ignore them. The alley has its own unspoken rules of territory and privacy. The city's noise is a constant, distant roar. The clatter of wagons, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the shouts of vendors, the distant whistle of a steam engine. You are in the belly of the beast, and you can always hear its heart beating. The break is short, 15 minutes, just long enough to eat your food and feel the full weight of your exhaustion settle into your bones. Sitting down makes the thought of standing up again seem impossible. Your body protests. Your mind pleads for rest, for just a few more minutes of stillness. But the break is over. Mac's grunt from the doorway is the signal. You push yourself to your feet, your joints cracking in protest. You drop the newspaper your lunch was wrapped in onto the ground. It joins the rest of the alley's detritus. You go back inside. The afternoon ordeal is about to begin. The saloon opens for business at noon. The first customers are the regulars, the daytime drinkers. Old men with shaking hands and haunted eyes, laborers from the docks looking for a quick beer before heading back to work, a few sailors killing time. They are quiet, morose. They drink steadily, without pleasure. Your job now is to be invisible. You stand by the wall, watching, waiting. When a glass is empty, you collect it. When someone spills a drink, you appear with a rag and wipe it up. When a spittoon is getting full, you empty it. You are a ghost, a silent, janitorial presence on the edge of their grim rituals. The afternoon wears on. The light outside begins to fade, and more lamps are lit inside. The saloon slowly fills up. The noise level rises. The quiet, grim drinking of the afternoon gives way to the louder, more desperate revelry of the evening. A man begins to play the piano in the corner, a tinny, repetitive melody that will be the soundtrack for the rest of your day. The air grows thick with tobacco smoke. It stings your eyes and clogs your throat. The smell of cheap whiskey and beer is overpowering. The floor, which you spent all morning cleaning, is once again sticky with spills. The clean spittoons are filling up. The cycle of filth begins anew. Your body moves on autopilot. You collect glasses, wipe tables, mop up spills. You move through the crowded room like a fish swimming through a murky, sluggish current. You brush past bodies, avoid stumbling drunks, navigate the narrow spaces between tables. It requires a constant, low-level state of alertness. As the hours pass, your mind begins to drift. It is a defense mechanism, a way to escape the oppressive reality of the room. You find yourself thinking of the farm. You see the vast, open sky, the endless fields of corn, the way the light looked in the late afternoon, golden and soft. You can almost feel the warmth of the sun, smell the clean scent of the earth after a rain. These memories are both a comfort and a torment. They remind you of a life that was simpler, cleaner, quieter. A life that you chose to leave. Why did you leave? The question echoes in the empty spaces of your mind. For adventure? For wealth? You look around the noisy, stinking saloon, at the drunk, desperate faces, and you cannot remember. The reasons have been worn away by the daily grind, leaving only the hard, unchangeable fact of your present reality. The work is a rhythm, the clink of glasses, the roar of conversation, the relentless piano, the slap of your rag on a wet table, the heavy weight of the spittoon in your hand. You are caught in the machine's gears, and they grind on and on. There is no past, no future, only the endless, repetitive now. A fight breaks out near the bar. It is a sudden, ugly explosion of violence. Two men, their faces contorted with rage, are throwing clumsy, drunken punches. Mac is over the bar in a flash. He grabs the two men by their collars and slams their heads together with a sickening thud. He drags their semi-conscious bodies to the door and throws them out into the street. The whole incident is over in less than a minute. The piano player does not miss a beat. The customers barely pause in their drinking. Violence is part of the atmosphere here, as common as the smoke and the noise. Your job is to clean up the aftermath. There is a broken glass on the floor, a splash of whiskey, a few drops of blood. You sweep up the glass, mop the spill. Within moments, there is no trace of the fight. The incident is erased, swallowed by the saloon's insatiable appetite for chaos. The evening deepens. The dance hall girls are working now. They are dressed in bright, garish dresses, their faces painted into masks of cheerful availability. They move through the crowd, laughing, flirting, steering men towards the bar. You watch them with a detached curiosity. They are playing a role, just as you are. Their smiles are as much a part of their uniform as your cleaning rag is a part of yours. A quirky detail about the economics of the Barbary coast is the concept of the deadfall. A deadfall was a saloon or dive bar of the lowest possible order. The term came from the practice of serving incredibly cheap, potent, and often adulterated liquor designed to get a customer drunk as quickly as possible. Once the patron was sufficiently intoxicated, he would be robbed of his money and any valuables. He might then be unceremoniously thrown out into the alley or, in some of the more infamous establishments, dropped through a trapdoor into the basement or directly onto a boat to be shanghaied. Patrons who entered a deadfall were considered dead to their money and their freedom. It was the bottom rung of the district's predatory ladder. The hours blur together. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11. The noise is a physical pressure against your eardrums. The air is so thick with smoke you can barely see across the room. Your body is a single, unified ache. Your feet burn. Your back is on fire. Your head throbs in time with the piano. You are moving in a dream, a nightmare from which you cannot wake. You focus on small things to stay sane. The way the gaslight reflects off a wet spot on the bar. The intricate pattern of cracks in the ceiling. The rhythm of your own breathing. You break the night down into a series of small, manageable tasks. Empty this spittoon. Collect those glasses. Wipe that table. Each completed task is a tiny victory, a step closer to the end. Sometime after midnight, the crowd begins to thin. The most determined drinkers remain, slumped over their tables, their conversations reduced to incoherent mumbles. The piano player has finally stopped. The silence he leaves behind is vast and ringing. The energy of the room has dissipated, leaving behind a residue of stale, weary despair. Mac begins to shout for the last call. The remaining customers are herded towards the door. Some go quietly, others argue and have to be physically persuaded. Finally, the last one is gone. Mac bolts the heavy door. The night is over. But your work is not. The room is in an even worse state than it was this morning. It is a wasteland of empty bottles, overturned chairs, and sticky, foul-smelling puddles. The work of cleaning, of resetting the stage for tomorrow's performance, begins all over again. You and Mac work in silence. There is a kind of grim camaraderie in the shared labor. You write the tables. You stack the chairs. You begin the long, slow process of sweeping the floor, gathering the debris of another night's commerce. The same dust, the same filth, the same routine. It is nearly 2 a.m. when you are finally done. The floor is swept and mopped. The spittoons are emptied and cleaned. The tables are wiped down. The room is quiet and clean, or as clean as it ever gets. It is a blank slate, ready to be written on again tomorrow. Mac is behind the bar, counting the night's earnings. He finishes and pushes a single, heavy silver dollar across the polished wood towards you. Your wage. $1 for 14 hours of work. You take the coin. It is heavy and cool in your hand. It is the reason for all of this. It is the price of your life for one day. Go on, Mac grunts. It is a dismissal. You nod and head for the back door. You step out into the alley. The night air is shockingly cold and clean after the fog of the saloon. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs. The city is quiet now. The great beast is finally sleeping. The walk back to your tenement is a journey through a city of ghosts. The streets are empty, shrouded in a thick, wet fog that muffles all sound and turns the gaslights into blurry, haloed orbs. Your footsteps echo in the silence. The Barbary coast at this hour is an eerie, unsettling place. The garish facades of the saloons are dark and menacing. The doorways are filled with shadows. You walk quickly, your hand in your pocket, clutching your dollar. This is the most dangerous time. The footpads and the desperate are out hunting. You see a few other figures moving through the fog, wraith-like and silent. You give them a wide berth. In the darkness and the fog, every stranger is a potential threat. Your senses are on high alert. Every distant shout, every creak of a shutter makes your heart beat faster. You are prey, and you know it. You reach the relative safety of your building. The saloon on the ground floor is dark and silent. You slip inside and make your way up the creaking stairs. The air in the building is thick and still, heavy with the smell of sleep and poverty. You move as quietly as you can, not wanting to wake anyone. You reach your room and ease the door open. It is pitch black inside. The only sounds are the deep, rhythmic breathing of the other 3 men. You can smell them, the sour scent of their sleeping bodies. You navigate the small space by memory, your hands brushing against the rough wooden bunks. You do not undress. You are too tired. You simply remove your boots, setting them down as gently as you can. You pull the thin, damp blanket up and lie down on the lumpy straw mattress. Your clothes are stiff with dirt and sweat, but you are too exhausted to care. The moment you lie down, the full extent of your body's pain makes itself known. Every muscle, every joint, every nerve screams in protest. The dull aches of the day have sharpened into 1,000 points of fire. Your feet throb as if they have been beaten with hammers. Your back is a tight, knotted rope of agony. The simple act of lying still is an ordeal. You close your eyes, but sleep does not come. Your mind, which you have kept carefully blank all day, now begins to race. You think about the dollar in your pocket. 25 cents for rent. 10 cents for coffee and bread. That leaves 65 cents. You need to save. You need to buy a new pair of boots. The soles of yours are wearing thin. You need to send money home. You promised you would. The numbers spin in your head, a desperate, impossible arithmetic. The sounds of the night press in on you. The man in the bunk across from you is snoring, a loud, wet, gasping sound. From the room next door, you can hear a woman weeping softly. The building groans and settles, a sound like a great, tired animal shifting in its sleep. From the street, a horse whinnies, a lonely, forlorn sound in the deep, dark night. A mainstream historical fact about urban poverty in the 19th century is the concept of the pauper's grave. For those who died without money or family to claim them, the city provided a grim, anonymous end. Bodies would be taken to a designated potter's field, a piece of land set aside for the indigent. There, they would be buried in simple pine boxes, or sometimes just sewn into a shroud, in long, unmarked trenches. There was no ceremony, no headstone, no record of their passing beyond a name in a ledger, if even that. For many of the inhabitants of places like the Barbary coast, this was a constant, underlying fear. The fear of dying alone and being forgotten, of your entire existence being erased as if you had never been. You think about your family in Ohio. You try to picture their faces, but they are blurry, indistinct. It has only been 6 months, but they already feel like characters from a book you read a long time ago. Does your mother think of you? Does she imagine you are living a grand life, making your fortune in the Golden City? The thought is a sharp, physical pain in your chest. The shame of your reality is a heavy weight. You turn onto your side, trying to find a position that eases the pain in your back. The straw in the mattress rustles. It smells faintly of mold. You are a world away from the clean, feather bed of your childhood. You are a world away from the person you used to be. Do you even remember him? That boy who was full of hope, who believed in stories. He seems like a stranger to you now. The city is never truly silent. Even now, in the deepest part of the night, you can feel it humming around you. A low, deep vibration that comes up through the floor, through the mattress, into your bones. It is the sound of a million lives, a million struggles, all packed together on this small strip of land between the hills and the bay. You are just one of them. A single, insignificant note in a vast, discordant symphony. You think about tomorrow. It will be the same as today. The same cold, the same smells, the same walk, the same work. You will wake up, you will clean the saloon, you will endure the long hours, you will collect your dollar, and you will return to this room. The relentless, grinding repetition of it stretches out before you, an endless, gray road. How long can you walk it? The fear is a cold knot in your stomach. Not the fear of a footpad in a dark alley, but a deeper, more profound fear. The fear that this is it. That this is all your life will ever be. The fear that you will never leave this room, this city. The fear that you will become one of the old men you see in the saloon, their faces empty, their hands shaking, drinking away the last of their days. But then, something else rises up to meet the fear. It is not hope. Hope is a fragile, delicate thing, and it cannot survive in this environment. It is something harder, more stubborn. It is endurance. It is the simple, animal instinct to survive. The knowledge that you have survived today, and so you can probably survive tomorrow. You have made it through another 14-hour day. You have earned your dollar. You are still here. You take a deep breath. The air is foul, but it fills your lungs. You are alive. Your body is in pain, but it is a living body. You focus on the simple fact of your own existence, the beat of your own heart, the warmth of your own blood. It is not much, but it is something. It is the anchor that holds you in the world. The thoughts begin to slow down. The sharp edges of your anxiety begin to soften. The sheer, overwhelming weight of your physical exhaustion is finally starting to conquer your racing mind. The sounds of the room, the snoring, the creaking of the building, begin to fade, to blend into a single, monotonous drone. You are drifting now, in the gray space between wakefulness and sleep. Fragments of the day float through your mind. The glint of light on a clean glass. The face of a drunken sailor, contorted in a silent scream. The heavy weight of the silver dollar in your palm. They are just images, stripped of their meaning, floating free. The last thing you feel is the cold. The deep, persistent, damp cold of the San Francisco night. It is your constant companion. But tonight, you are too tired to fight it. You surrender to it. You let it seep into you. You let it become a part of you. And as your body finally gives in to the crushing need for rest, the narrative of your small, difficult life dissolves. You are no longer Thomas or James from Ohio. You are no longer a swamper in the Barbary coast. You are just a body, seeking refuge in the temporary oblivion of sleep. You have endured. You have survived another day. And for now, that is enough. It has to be. You fall into a deep, dreamless, and profoundly exhausted sleep. And so he sleeps. Or rather, you sleep. A sleep that is not a gentle retreat, but a complete collapse, a surrender of a body and a mind pushed beyond their limits. This is the great, unacknowledged rhythm of life for millions throughout history. Not the grand sweep of wars and kings and inventions, but this simple, brutal cycle. Waking, laboring, enduring, and then this profound, merciful oblivion. The body, that incredible, resilient machine, shutting down to repair its frayed wires and worn-out gears, preparing to do it all again when the gray light returns. When we look back at a time like this, at a place like the Barbary coast, we are drawn to the lurid, the exciting, the sensational, the Shanghaiing, the dance hall girls, the opium dens, the gang wars. And those things are all part of the story. But they are not the whole story. The deeper, more common story is the one we have just lived. It is the story of the swamper, the laundress, the dock worker, the thousands of anonymous people whose daily, grinding labor made the city run. Their lives were not adventures. They were exercises in endurance. Their heroism was not found in a single dramatic act, but in the relentless, day-after-day courage of simply getting out of bed in the morning. The world you are returning to, the one you are lying in right now, is a world of almost unimaginable comfort and safety by comparison. The warmth of your blankets, the quiet of your room, the clean air you breathe. These are luxuries that the young man on Pacific Street could not even conceive of. His entire world was a relentless sensory assault, a constant struggle against filth, cold, noise, and danger. His brief moments of peace were not found in leisure or entertainment, but in the blessed stillness of a 15-minute break in a stinking alley, or in the first, hot, bitter sip of morning coffee. And yet, there is a thread that connects your world to his. It is the profound, universal human need for rest. The body's ancient, non-negotiable demand for a period of quiet and darkness in which to heal. No matter the century, no matter the circumstance, this need is a constant. The young man on his straw mattress and you in your comfortable bed are united in this fundamental act of surrender. You are both letting go of the day, of its worries and its pains, and trusting that the quiet alchemy of sleep will restore you, will give you the strength to face whatever comes with the dawn. So as you drift off tonight, let the boundary between his world and yours dissolve. Feel the echo of his exhaustion in your own limbs. Feel the profound relief of your own comfort and safety. Let his story be a reminder of the quiet, immense strength it takes to simply endure. And let your own sleep be a tribute to that endurance. A deep, peaceful, and restorative rest. Good night. Sweet dreams.